the force that eats the sun when it sets at night. That's the most archaic way of thinking about it. But it's the snake or the predator. So, and what do you do with a snake or a predator? Man, you burn it, you kill it, you crush it. It's like there's a destructive force that comes along with it, with that, that's absolutely, well, it's morally righteous. Because, yeah, you know, if it's a poisonous snake and it's threatening the village, obviously you kill it. And then you're celebrated for it.
So in a sense, the same dehumanizing force that allows people to act that way in war also allows people to disassociate between anyone who doesn't agree with their ideology in a school setting, in a university, like what happened at McMaster's.
Yeah, that's why I don't like that's why I don't like ideologies.
Yeah.
Because the ideology divides the world into those safely ensconced within our dominance hierarchy and serpents. And so that's dangerous. And the reason that this doctrine that I described about the line between good and evil running down the individual's heart, I mean, I got that particular line mostly from Alexander Solzhenitsyn, but it's also it's an idea that's been developed intensively in the West for thousands and thousands of years. And I mean, maybe it's been developed since far before we invented the stories in Genesis, because of course the serpent, see in Genesis, of course, Genesis is like a paradise, right? So you can think about it as a well-functioning hierarchy. It's also a balance between chaos and order. It's got walls and it's a garden. So, but there's a snake that pops its head in, and that's the same as that, as I said, that black dot inside the white serpent in the yin yang symbol. It's that no matter how, it doesn't matter how perfect the environment is set up, something that doesn't fit is going to make its way inside. It's one of the oldest stories of mankind. And you see, the thing that makes itself manifest inside in the Genesis story is a snake. Now that snake turns out to be Satan, which is like, how the hell does that happen? It's a snake. Like, what? Where does that come from? It's not actually in the biblical writings to any degree. It's part of the surrounding mythology. Well, it's partly because people started to figure out that the worst snake wasn't a snake. The worst snake was the snake that was inside a person. Because a malevolent person is way more of a threat than just a snake. Like a snake wants to bite you and it wants to eat you and all of that. And they were hell on our extremely primordial ancestors. But the human race has been trying to figure out where the threat is forever. Well, first of all, it was external, right? It was all external. It was the snake, it was the barbarian. But then it got localized to some degree inside the individual. It's like, that's a bad person. That person has a snake in them. And then the idea kind of came out, this is so cool, the idea is that, well, the snake that's inside bad person A and the snake that's inside bad person B is somehow the same. So that's where the idea of an articulated morality starts to come from, is there's an equivalence of evil across individuals. So then the idea of evil itself starts to become abstracted at the same time that the idea of good does. Well, evil gets associated with Satan and Satan gets associated with the snake. It's mind-boggling. I mean, these are how these, see, we were chimps, for Christ's sake. You know, it took us a long time to develop up, say, an ideal. Just to say the word an ideal implies a counter-ideal. Say, well, those things were embodied way before they were ideas. And after they were embodied first, not as bad, but as a bad thing or a bad person. Bad had to be extracted out of that. And even that was extracted as a drama first. You know, it's like the bad guy in a movie. He isn't a bad guy. He's a composite bad guy. You know, he's a literary bad guy. And the good guy isn't just a good guy. He's a literary good guy. He's a hero. He's got way more heroic attributes than the typical person. And that's where abstract ideas are born.